Hi, I'm Dr. Sean Talbott. I'm a researcher and educator who studies how lifestyle can influence our health and well-being. You can read about some of my research and my programs at my website, seantalbott.com, and in my new book, Vigor, 7 Days to Unlimited Energy, Focus, and Well-Being at vigorbook.com. For the last decade, I've been studying something called vigor. Chances are, if you're like most other people living in an industrialized country anywhere in the world, your daily routine is hectic and stressful, you suffer from constant fatigue, you rarely sleep well, you continue to gain weight, and you're at least occasionally moody. In fact, you may be experiencing what we often refer to in psychology research as burnout. Psychology researchers describe the opposite state of burnout as something called vigor, which is defined as a three-tiered sustained mood state characterized by physical energy, emotional energy, and mental focus. As such, vigor is a true measure of wellness because it encompasses much more than simply feeling energetic or being in a good mood or having a sharp mind. People with high vigor scores are those can-do individuals who feel like getting things done. They're motivated. And for lots of people, vigor is a state that they have not experienced in many, many years. Feelings of low vigor are common in our modern stress-filled world. Millions of us succumb to chronic stress and end up feeling tired, stressed, depressed because of specific metabolic imbalances. Here I'm talking specifically about disruptions in hormones like cortisol and testosterone and in neurotransmitters like dopamine and norepinephrine. And those imbalances lead to feelings of reduced vigor. People will often ask me, can you restore vigor? And the answer, of course, is yes. However, very few people outside of the research community have ever even heard of vigor or have any idea that you can achieve it naturally by restoring metabolic balance. That's the balance between hormones and enzymes and neurotransmitters that becomes disrupted by chronic stress. We can attempt to temporarily reduce our fatigue with an energy drink or another stimulant, but that approach does not restore vigor. Instead, energy drinks and related options are inadequate solutions because they don't address the underlying cause of low vigor, which is metabolic imbalance. In fact, not only do energy drinks not restore vigor, they're more likely to increase tension and increase anxiety, which are two other indications of mood state that we can measure in our studies. But true vigor goes much beyond what most people associate with energy and fatigue. It really gets to the heart of how people want to feel. The modern scientific description of vigor can be compared to the ancient descriptions of vitality and wellness from traditional medicine systems from all around the world. In every ancient culture, there typically has been a common belief that true health stems from a strong life force in the body. Other names for this life force or vigor include qi in traditional Chinese medicine, or prana in Ayurvedic medicine or Indian medicine, and mana in Polynesian medicine, just to name a few. Chronic stress and the underlying metabolic disruptions that it leads to undoubtedly plays a major role in many of today's modern diseases, particularly depression, chronic fatigue, anxiety, fibromyalgia, and obesity. In fact, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the World Health Organization, 80% of North Americans have enough daily stress to cause health problems. Stress contributes to half of all illnesses in North America. 70 to 80% of all doctor visits are for stress-related diseases, and more than half of all deaths before age 65 result from stressful lifestyles. The good news is that by naturally restoring metabolic hormone balance, we can dramatically reduce feelings of stress, we can cut fatigue and depression by half, we can boost physical and mental energy, and we can significantly improve vigor. In the lab and the clinic, we measure vigor using a scientifically validated research tool called the Profile of Mood State Survey, or POMS, P-O-M-S. The PALMS has been used in more than 3,000 research studies, making it the true gold standard for assessing changes in mood state and in vigor following different interventions. Over the past 6 years, our group has conducted a series of human clinical studies in stressed volunteers. These studies were as short as 1 week and as long as 12 weeks, and all participants took an all-natural dietary supplement called Elevive that you can learn more about in other parts of this website. These studies have shown that Elevive can help to significantly improve vigor by 25 to 30% following a restoration of metabolic balance. This means that although chronic stress disrupts metabolic balance, we now know that restoring metabolic balance helps to improve feelings of vigor quickly within a week, and that those changes persist for months thereafter, indicating a unique and lasting improvement in overall well-being that is far superior to the fleeting and temporary effects of energy drinks and related products. These clinical trials have been presented at some of the top peer-reviewed scientific conferences in the world, including the American College of Nutrition, American College of Sports Medicine, the Obesity Society, the International Society for Sports Nutrition, and the American Society for Nutrition. In addition to the significant improvements in vigor, our studies also demonstrate that by restoring metabolic balance, typically by a factor of 15 to over 400%, we can improve overall well-being, also known as global mood state, by more than 20%, and reduce fatigue and reduce depression by nearly half. Remember that we can temporarily reduce fatigue with an energy drink or some other stimulant, but that would not increase vigor. And your results would really be a trade-off between reduced fatigue, which might be good, but also increased tension and increased anxiety, which is not good. True vigor goes much beyond what most of us associate with energy and fatigue. It really gets to the heart of how people want to feel. As I mentioned earlier, the term vigor is the opposite of burnout: physical fatigue, emotional exhaustion, and cognitive weariness that many people will, unfortunately, recognize as how they feel on a regular day-to-day basis. They might call it tired, stressed, and depressed. Vigor is the opposite of that feeling. About 10 years ago, when I first started lecturing and writing about the detrimental effects of stress on health, I started off many of my seminars by asking members of the audience 3 simple questions. Question 1, got stress? As you might imagine, almost every hand in the audience goes up because our modern lifestyles have most of us completely frazzled on a daily basis. Population statistics tell us that as many as 65 to 90% of the American population has enough stress to result in a detrimental health outcome, meaning a stress-related disease. Scientific and medical organizations around the world, including the American Psychological Association, the Centers for Disease Control, the World Health Organization, and the American Institute of Stress, and even the United Nations through its International Labor Organization, have identified chronic stress as a worldwide public health epidemic. So being overstressed is clearly more than just another American affliction. Question 2 is, do you get less than 8 solid hours of restful sleep every night? Again, almost every hand in the audience goes up. The National Sleep Foundation tells us that the average amount of nightly sleep is 6.5 hours, or about 1 to 2 hours less than what most of us really need to feel and perform at our best. Sleep researchers from the University of Chicago have shown in multiple studies that short sleepers, people who are getting 6.5 hours of sleep nightly, have disrupted metabolic balance. They have elevated levels of cortisol, insulin, and glucose, which basically is putting them at risk for diabetes and obesity because of the stress that their bodies are under after missing a few hours of sleep every night. The last question, question number 3, is, are you aging? And this question is my way to both get a laugh from the audience and to illustrate an important point. The laugh comes because everyone knows that they're aging. 100% of the hands should go up, and they think that there's nothing they can do about it. We can slow some aspects of the aging process, but we can't stop it. people are often surprised to learn that the very process of aging represents a stress on the body because of the slow and progressive disruption of metabolic balance that occurs year by year as we age. Cortisol levels rise and testosterone levels fall about 1% every year after your mid-30s. Eventually, we all age ourselves into metabolic imbalance, but stress exposure and sleep loss accelerate the process and lead us faster to a state of low vigor where we feel more tired, more depressed, and more confused. By asking these 3 simple questions, I get the audience to listen to me when I tell them one of the most important concepts in lifestyle research today, that being that biochemistry drives emotions, and vice versa. The reason that we feel a certain way is because of our underlying biochemistry. So the degree to which we're exposed to cortisol or dopamine or serotonin or insulin or hundreds of other signals in the body will influence our feelings of energy and happiness and mental clarity and creativity and appetite and motivation, among many, many others. Think about how we feel when we're under stress. We tend to eat more and eat more junk, and we exercise less. We tend to be constantly tired during the day, and yet we can't relax enough to get a good night of sleep. You might find it interesting to know that stressed out people also have more heart attacks, more depression, more colds, and less sex. I can't think of a more dismal picture, and stress-induced disruptions in our internal biochemistry are at the root of all of it. Let me give you a very short list of some of the most common stress-related diseases. I have a longer list that I periodically update on my website, SeanTalbott.com, and in my book on Vigor at vigorbook.com. I keep this listing for my lectures to other health professionals to alert them to the fact that most of their clients and patients are suffering from stress-induced metabolic imbalance diseases that are not being adequately addressed by prescription drugs, things like antidepressants and sleep drugs and ADD drugs. This list of diseases includes depression, anxiety, ADD, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, memory problems, heart disease, obesity, and diabetes, and many, many others. And that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to stress-related diseases. How is it that something as simple as stress can cause so many problems, from depression to heart disease to weight gain? The reason is because a chronic stress response, such as the one that we mount every day when we're faced with deadlines, traffic, money concerns, family conflicts, irritating coworkers, and other worries, that causes an immediate and profound change in a variety of hormones in our bodies. And those hormones are distributed throughout the entire body, where they influence the function of every organ and every cell that they come in contact with. Perhaps the biggest problem with chronic stress is the fact that its initial effects are so subtle. Cortisol goes up and testosterone goes down, and before you know it, you have a few extra pounds of weight, a slight reduction in energy levels, a modest drop in sex drive, and a bit of trouble with memory. Much of the time, we simply brush these off as effects of normal aspects of aging. However, as you'll read in my book, Vigor, and as you'll understand as you educate yourself, these are actually the earliest signs of depression, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, obesity, diabetes, impotence, dementia, heart disease, cancer, and many related conditions that we associate with a modern lifestyle. Indeed, stress is emerging as a key factor in the very process that we all recognize as aging.